Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. No matter where you are, I hope you are well. Welcome to the Beyond Gender Roundtable discussion on gender equity in architecture with students, organized by PAM Gender Equity Special Committee, in collaboration with the Malaysia Architecture Students Alliance, MASA, and supported by the PAM Education Committee. The key objective is to have the conversation with the students, to identify and address the issue they encounter in relation to gender, to look at ways to create a learning environment that is more gender inclusive and equitable, and to establish the necessary support system. Each student are to have 3 minutes to share their thoughts and ideas. A 45 minutes Q&A session involving students representative, panelists from the Gender Equity Special Committee, and an esteem of panel academician will be moderated by Dr. Veronica Ng. My name is Vinci Laikai. I'm a MASA representative and a Part 1 graduate. I'll be your co-moderator for today. First of all, I would like to thank Archidex 2021 for giving us an opportunity to conduct this session. We are pleased to have this collaboration with Archidex. To begin with, let's welcome our moderator, Dr. Veronica. Hi, Dr. Veronica.
Hello. Thank
How
you,
are you
Vinci.
today?
I'm good, thank you. Let's begin. So very good afternoon to esteemed panelists, participants, and the audience who are viewing this session. It is my pleasure to moderate this conversation titled Beyond Gender together with my co-moderators, Vinci, Lai, and Amelia. Gender equity in academia is amongst one of the topics that are almost underexplored and discussed. And here we are today. We are having a roundtable around this topic. Today, it is our pleasure to have with us the chairman of PAM Gender Equity Special Committee, Datuk Architect Tan Pei Eng, and a spread of panelists comprising of Datuk Architect Izumi Harzani, President of PAM, Architect IDR Alice Leong, PAM Honorary Treasurer and Co-Chair of GE Committee, Ng Chi Hin, Co-Chair of PAM Education Committee, Architect Chua Chi Ching, Associate Director, HMSK Architecture Sendirian Berhad, Mr. S.T. Ng, PAM Gender Equity Special Committee Member, Architect Wui Luk Wang, Principal of Wui Architect and Part-Time Lecturer at UPM, Architect Lim Wei Shan, Principal of Lim Wei Shan Architect and Senior Lecturer at Taylor's University, Architect Datin Seri Dr. Norina Muhammad Nawawi, Senior Academic Fellow IIUM, and Architect Tan Bi Yu, Academician at USM, and of course, all the participants who comprised of architecture students and the graduates. And today we are going to have a conversation around gender equity. Let's grace this session with an opening remark by Datuk Architect Tan Pei Eng, Chairman of PAM Gender Equity Special Committee. Allow me to present a short introduction of Datuk Tan. Datuk Tan is the first female president of Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, PAM, Lembaga Architect Malaysia LAM board member, past president and advisor of the Arcadia. She has just been elected as the Secretary General of International Union of Architects 2021 to 2023. She is a strong advocate for social responsibility, climate resilience, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and was involved in the drafting of the UIA Gender Equity in Architecture policy. She was conferred with many prestigious awards, i.e. the CIDB Construction Leading Lady Award 2015, Distinguished Australian Alumni Award 2016, LAM President's Award 2017, and PAM Gold Medal for Service 2019. And I can still go on and on with it. Indeed, an exemplary representation of female in an otherwise perceived masculine discipline. So without much talking from me, I would like to invite Datuk Tan to share her opening remarks. Datuk Tan, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this roundtable discussion with the team Beyond Gender. This roundtable discussion on gender equity in architecture with students is organized by PAM Gender Equity Committee in collaboration with the Malaysian Architect Students Alliance, MASA, and supported by the PAM Education Committee. The Special PAM Gender Equity Committee was set up by PAM in mid-2019. The main objective is to collectively pool our resources, experience, and energy to promote the culture of inclusion within the profession, address the ongoing debate on gender disparity, and recognize the importance of contribution, not only by male, but also female architects to the architecture profession and the built environment. Since the formation, the committee has developed the Declaration and Policy on Gender Equity in Architecture, which are adapted from the Declaration and Policy published by the International Union of Architects. We believe that the policy will be beneficial not only for the empowerment of female in society, it will also encourage more female participations in the profession and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have compiled the PAM membership statistic for the last few years. The percentage of female students has increased progressively and substantially over the years, and is currently close to 50%. However, the percentage dropped to 37% for graduate membership and dropped even further to only 20% for corporate membership. This condition is not unique to only Malaysia, but also for more developed countries such as Australia and USA. In addition to that, based on the gender equity survey we conducted in early 2020, we noted that the response on gender perspectives vary accordingly to the different age group. As such, we mooted the idea of conducting a dialogue with the students. The purpose is for the committee members to engage the academician and the students with the following objectives: to identify whether there are any issues faced by the students with regard to gender and how to address them, to look at ways to create a learning environment that's more gender inclusive and equitable, to identify and establish the necessary support system required, and most importantly, to prepare them after their graduation when they join the building industry. In preparation of today's dialogue and to make today's discussion more meaningful, a special survey was also conducted with the students on their gender perspective based on a similar survey that was conducted previously. The results collected will help us identify the obstacles preventing the achievement of a better and more dynamic studying environment. Dr. Veronica, who is also the moderator today, will share with you the results of the said survey, and this will form part of our key deliberations today. I wish to reiterate that gender equality, which is under the UN SDG number 5, is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. As such, we all play a critical role in emphasizing and raising awareness of the importance of including gender balance perspective in all the policies and activities, having a more inclusive approach and diverse leadership to forge the path towards the transformation to make the world a more equitable and inclusive one for all. So let us all work together to make it happen and make a meaningful difference. And thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Tan. As anchored by Dato' Tan's opening remark, let's begin our conversation. But let me quickly share the format of how we are running this roundtable. So first, I will share a short report on the gender equity survey conducted in 2021 that flows into the conversation amongst the participants as well as the panelists in this session. And we will frame it around 3 topics. Myself and my co-moderators, Amelia and Vinci, will facilitate each subtopic, comprising of first framing the topic, and that will be led by myself. And subsequently, Amelia will facilitate the student sharing and response by the panelists. And thirdly, Vinci will then carry through the session with Q&A to allow for the session to flow organically. And I must emphasize that an organic flow is our objective. So without further ado, I would like to share my slides to bring you through some of the salient points arising from the gender equity survey conducted amongst the students as well as young graduates that have just recently completed their architecture education. This gender equity survey was conducted from September to October 2021, and I have taken the summary version to be presented today, and I have put together in 4 summarized slides. Although there are many words on the screen, but let me navigate you to the important points that I would like to highlight. There were 3 sections in the survey, and the first section points to university life. In university life, there were questions evolving around staff gender ratio and student gender ratio. And from these ratios, we can summarize that actually there are quite a balanced gender amongst students as well as academics within the universities and institutes of higher learning. Following that, there was 78.6% of respondents who mentioned that there was no biasness towards gender. And this indeed is a positive number. However, reportedly, there were equal of approximately 11% that claimed that there was bias against both, bias of female towards male and vice versa. From there, we prompted further questions whether respondents have experienced or witnessed any form of gender inequality. And we noted that actually 85.7% said, there wasn't any. And that was also a positive news. However, approximately 14.3% mentioned it did. And I have also snippet some of the key comments, open-ended comments from the survey to give the context towards what are the typical topics and scenarios by which arises a gender inequality. And we can almost align it to me being an academic. I can see this as one of the scenarios that we often faced with being a university lecturer or even being a student when I was studying. The other part of the survey looks at practice and internship. And this asked the respondents dominantly on their internship experience, as well as for young graduates, their practical experience. And through this survey, we found that 71.4% have experience working in an architectural practice. And other forms of practices are like universities, contractors, government, developers, and others. So these were the nature of industries that students or respondents of this survey worked in. And we can see that there's also a good spread of the size of the employment practice. So we continue to prompt the question of gender ratio in the studio or in the company. Similar to the university, there was actually a balanced amount, a fairly healthy, inclusive amount. However, when we look at lead roles in the studio or in the company, there were almost close to 60% are more towards male lead roles, i.e. leadership are driven by men. And lastly, the profile of employer, they are mainly male-owned. So these were some of the results that we found that was largely skewed towards the masculine aspect of the practice. And when asked a little bit further about whether there's any salary difference between male and female, it was reported that almost 80% said there is no gap. And in instances where there is a gap, 83.3% said that the gap is not big, it is just within 10%. For workload-wise, it was found that men are usually given heavier workloads. while only 18.3% said that female had heavier workloads. There were also comments or response from females that says there is no maternal leave in their practice. Probably the word no here means perhaps they had to work to a certain extent during their maternal leave, etc. And 18.3% says there's no childcare support in their practice. 78.3% responded that they have not experienced any gender biasness in practice. And the last result that we would like to share, what if gender biasness happen? What if there is an incident or a scenario? Most of them actually mentioned they will actually share with their employer or superior, as well as family, friends, and colleagues. So when we add up the total of employer as well as family, friends, and colleagues, we see actually a great percentage of almost 70% that will actually voice out that they have experienced or seen inequality situations. And 70.2% of them says that it is actually effective in addressing the issue. So these are some of the key findings that we have. And with this, we would like to allow a more fluid flow into the three topics that we are going to share today. So for the three topics, let me just summarize what are the three main topics. So firstly, we are going to talk about university life and gender equity. Secondly, we are going to talk about gender equity in practice or during internship. And the third subtopic we are going to share on how are the ways that we could actually address, either from an academic perspective or a practice perspective, looking from the whole idea that students will simultaneously move on to the practice world. And it is indeed important to understand the context and actually prepare for this transition. So, drawing from the survey report, as I've mentioned, we will start with the first subtopic on gender equity in university life. So, there are many people who have defined gender equity in many different ways. Yeah, some would see it as a cultural construct. Yeah, gender is culture bias. Or some may think that gender equity is very much about social construct, while some will see it from a more professional perspective, and there are many, many dimensions to gender equity. Although the report shows that 78.6% said there is no biasness in university life, but perhaps there were situations in the university that our fellow students and graduates here today, the participants, you may have experienced certain gender equity issues when you were studying or when you were communicating with your lecturers or when you're just merely talking amongst your friends. So I would like to frame the question as, what is gender equity to you in the context of uni life? And have you observed or experienced situations of gender inequality in your education life within the universities that you are in? Okay. So with that, I would like to pass on to my co-moderator, Amelia, to take over the floor to start the sharing session. So Amelia, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Veronica, for that introduction. And once again, my name is Amelia, and let's just jump right into the session. So echoing from whatever Dr. Veronica just mentioned, based on the theme of gender equity in university life, I would like to invite the participants to share their thoughts on this. So let's hear from Yeshodan, your perception of the topic as a current student. Yeshodan?
Yes, good day, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm Yesh from Taylor's University. I'm in semester 5 of part 1. Before I begin, I just really want to extend my appreciation for this opportunity to share some thoughts. So firstly, I'll just talk a little bit on some of the thoughts, just some thoughts that I had on gender. So traditionally, the meaning of gender had reflected the male or female biological division of a species. But looking at linguistically, gender as a noun has been used to create classes of pronouns like he, she, man, woman, correlating to sex. But the number of genders has varied. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, from 2 to almost 20 in different languages. And so when we take one example of a language, for example, in Sanskrit language, this language has formulated pronouns quite fascinatingly. I'll give a specific example, but basically one would notice that the woman comes before the man. In the grammatical construct, unlike the English grammar, where the pronoun for women, or rather the man, is the root for women. So please excuse the inaccuracies of pronunciation. He in English is Eshaha in Sanskrit. She in English is Esha in Sanskrit. The feminine called ka in Sanskrit consequently becomes the root for kaha, that is for masculine. So this translates to the idea that a cultural construct of a language informs us of the social status of the genders, and from the ontological understanding, what society thinks about the gender, in terms of what power versus gentleness, intellectual versus emotion, and what none means in relation to masculine versus feminine. The aspect of equity, according to Merriam-Webster, points towards fairness and justice, as opposed to sameness and equality. So, bringing this to gender from the metaphysical context, equity in this context of masculine and feminine traits should be seen from the perspective of the value they bring to society. And from my experience in uni, there might have been a proclivity of my female classmates towards social, spatial elements, while many of my male classmates tended towards the masculine aspects, intellectualism, and breaking down into structural elements. So it is to ponder that when these values of masculine and feminine are viewed in the architectural process, equity to me should be beyond looking at the aspect of just the physical and biological social differences, and perhaps on the idea of nurturing the innate uniqueness that ancient wisdom has taught us, where each student may bring out their natural and natural sides of this duality. So to summarize, gender in this context of higher learning institutions, to me, should encompass the education of deeper values and meanings of feminine and masculine, whether in the general sense of what this means socially, but also in how this has affected architecture from the aspects of social, political, and whatnot. And therefore, equity comes in the relation of how each gender must be given this fairness to explore this own personal uniqueness. So this is all I would like to say. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Yeshodan, for that rich introduction. Now, I'd like to invite Lee Chi Hung. What is your stance on this content instead?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Chia speaking. I'm a graduation student from Taylor's. So, in general, gender equity is also known as sexual equality or equality of sexes. Means a fair treat of rights between both male and female gender. So, to ensure fairness, strategies and measures must often be able to prevent women and men from otherwise operating a level playing field. So in terms of architecture field perspective, there are always some imbalances, no matter you like it or not, there of the gender equity between both genders, no matter in architecture studies or work field. So for example, according to the survey of University Life in architecture, there are 10.7% of bias towards both genders. And this is a minority number, but perhaps it will become a social bias issue that may become a threat of the future, which is the architectural working field. So in my opinion, I would like to define gender equity as the balance of rights of both genders, and it's quite important to have no bias to both genders to success equity starting from university life. So this is what I've done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee Chi-hung. Perhaps we could get another opinion or a different perspective, or maybe a little bit more of an insight to university life itself. So let's hear from Uiwei.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Wei. I've just graduated from Part 2 USM. So in my opinion, gender equity is not only having a fair treatment to both women and men, but it's getting the fair treatment in accordance to both genders' respective needs. So in terms of in a school context and an academic context, I feel that it's really important to provide students, regardless of gender, the same opportunities, same chances to lead or to carry out activities or to voice out their opinions, not just only for academics projects, but also school activities and so on. Yeah, and so if I feel that if gender equality is the main aim, then gender equity itself it's the means towards gender equality. Yeah, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Uiwei. Now, maybe we could go towards the panelist side, the academicians. So let's hear from a senior academic fellow, Datin Norina. What would you make of what the students' opinions are?
Good afternoon. Right. I mean, it's enriching to hear from students, and they were well spoken actually. So it's hard to actually categorize what's when, but maybe I could like clarify a bit when we talk about equity. So equity is not about equality because we are all designed differently, and I'm sure you'll understand that we're in student in university, as you said, from the lecturer's perspective, perhaps. That we see students, as just generally as students, we don't really see male or female. So I think perhaps perhaps it is becoming if you do not expect, or rather maybe it is based on the past experiences of the different individuals that you may find that there is a bit of a biasness in any of this. But I think from the three speakers so far, I think it's just more of a definition of what gender is. I think we can go perhaps discuss more, but I think it has to be clarified that it is about looking objectively as far as the education is concerned, and each one of us have a different capacity of learning, so it's more to merit. Okay, it's more to merit. I think we see students as who has the merit, or who has sometimes, of course, based on their own individual personality of very prominent or have very much good confidence to speak out. Then you get a bit more what called focus on. You get more attention to that. So I think again it has to be a two-way system of getting it across. So of course, as far as my opinion is concerned, we see students as merely people who wants to learn, and we are very, very happy to be able to nurture or spend time to that. So again, based on time, perhaps, so you could see how it is going on. I'll just do that for a moment, and then I'll get more. I'm not sure whether my explanation is giving anything, but I was so impressed by most of the speakers today. I'm sure they'll be better on future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Datin Norina. Now, reflecting from what Datin just mentioned, right? Maybe Wincy, you could share a bit about your thoughts, and echoing with whatever, maybe you could reflect towards more intimate about your university life itself.
Hi
Wincy?
there. Yes, I'm Wincy. So basically, I actually quite agree on what Dr. Novina said. To me, gender equity is that everyone have their suitable and optimum chances and resource to reach the same height. So I actually previously read an article named Gender, Space and Architecture. So basically, they have this statement saying that space are gendered, leading to unequal access and participation. But actually, in my point of view, is that there are difference in gender, but then we can actually cherish and enhance the difference in gender. Like for example, we take the Malaysia house plan as example. So basically, the Dapur part is more of the woman kind of area, and Serambi itself is more of a man and male kind of area. So I think each area play their function, and all in all, as whole, it became a house. So relate back to my experience when I was a King Scout. So during King Scout, we will need to design our own furniture, gateway, and also tent using bamboo. So it was quite an interesting experience where we actually involved both gender, male and female, in the process of designing and also planning of the space. So I think both we have strength and weakness for both gender. But then what we have to do now is to cherish the gender equity and enhance the difference so that we can actually achieve further. Vinci Dan speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Wincy, for that insightful experience. Now, once again, I'd like to just reiterate that whoever would like to say any opinions, you could just raise your hand and we would call you out and you could share your opinions as well. So with that, now I'd like to call Farhan. Maybe you could say a thing or two from your experiences.
Hello, hi everyone. Good day to moderator, and guests. So beyond gender. So this is used to be a very controversial, but now not anymore.
Sorry for butting in, but I'm afraid we are unable to see you. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Hi. Okay. So many people nowadays, I have to say that have an open-minded wisdom to faith in the notions. So as years pass by, all we can see the empowerment move by women involving the medical sector. So delighted? Yes. Proud? Definitely. So gender equality is one of the trends that will influence urban and architecture study discussion. So many numbers of women nowadays has achieved the same level of education and goal as set for the men, even under some circumstances. There are many ladies out there who conquer their own world. And in architecture, we shall celebrate everyone and create colors in their professions. So in architecture has a reputation a long and dominated profession by the men, but comparing gender shall not be the case anymore. In fact, there are a lot of alpha ladies out there can work well alongside with the gentlemen. So in this town of the cities that we live in, the approach reflects the needs of creation to all the people who live here. So here, the reason why I'm promoting the gender equality and championing the next generation of the female architects is so important in creating truly outstanding public and private spaces in Malaysia. So appreciately introducing the female architect in architecture studies and sharing sessions like today can be eye-opening to the world. Just look at now, we can see not only the males architect will get the fame, in fact, many females architects have stolen the spotlight. And I believe many people out there inspired by all the female speakers we got here. So gender equality definitely makes a difference for us. I'll talk because I'm not sure that because I'm a woman, but this is my point of my view. So practices should always promote transparency towards all genders. We might see from the past year, the majority of people working in architecture practice and the construction site were all men. So, but now meeting, sites visit, more project involvement can be handled by women. Many of the inspirational female architects, they have many various projects not only in Malaysia but globally. So that the beauty of the architecture celebrating diversity beyond the gender, imagine architecture without arguing the gender. We can have more ideas, more colors, better future for the youth, and showing the other field how beautiful architecture in this world. So ladies and gentlemen, let's the Iron Lady and Iron Man lead the world together. Thank you.
So thank you, Farhan. Thank you so much for that. Now, perhaps I'd like to bounce it off to the academicians once again. Architect Tan Bu, what are your views on what has just been said from all the speakers previously?
Hi, Emilia. Thank you. So BU here. I am very impressed with what Farhan mentioned. Alpha ladies, alpha architects. I think me as a woman in architecture, I think I don't see ourselves as being any superior. I think we are going for equal. When we say, girl power and all that, but I feel that's the message we want to run, that we are equal. We are not saying that women architects are better. When we say alpha means top number one, if you have a pyramid, alpha is at the top. So I think personally, I'm sure all the women architects out there, we don't see ourselves as better, but equal. And what I want to contribute to the panel here is, I think this is what I tell my students. To start with, we need to shape our own perception for the girls, for the young women, because many times there is a glass ceiling in our own mindset. Glass ceiling is a term coined in 1970s for women who cannot go higher than director level because, women are always seen taking maternity leave. So there is this glass ceiling sometimes in us young women architects. It means that we ourselves must shake off that perception that, because we are women, I don't think we can go to site. I don't think I can talk to the construction supervisor. So I always kind of like coach this, that look, you have to be fearless, and they would not judge you any less because you're a woman. So that's number one, that us women, for a start, must change our perception first. You must remove any glass ceiling in your mindset. Then what about the men, the boys in the class? So the boys in the class, my message is, then let's support the girls in the class in your group studies. Okay, you show empathy, speak up for their participation, and remove zero bias, zero gender bias. Okay. Or not because ladies tak nak lah, don't want to join in my group. So let's everyone be equal. And I like the part where differences in gender should be celebrated. I think that's a splendid point. That means men are good at certain things, women are awesome at certain. So if men and women can recognize that, then yin and yang, then you can work together as a good team. Okay, that's my short point today. Back to you, Emilia.
Thank you, Architect VU. What Architect just mentioned, that it's gender equity and not gender equality. So with that, I'd like to invite Architect Wui as a part-time lecturer. What are your sentiments for this topic we have? Sorry, is Architect Wui not present? All right, perhaps I would call upon a senior lecturer instead, Architect Lim.
Yeah, thanks, Amelia. I'm Rishan from Taylor's University. In response to Architect BU's statement, right, as a lady or as a woman architect, we don't see ourselves better. But I would like to have another statement. As a lady, we don't see ourselves special or different. Yeah, so we can't expect that people, especially the male, treat us differently or special. Yeah, as a lecturer, personally, I have no preference in selecting class representative. Yeah, for every semester, I will have a male or female class rep. Yeah, regardless their gender. Yeah, and for grouping, for tutorial grouping, for group projects, we normally don't do grouping looking at their genders. Happens that in one of the bamboo installation project in Taylor semester 1, I have two groups of female students, and both groups, Erin and Jesse's group, if those from Masa know them, they did very well, regardless the gender. And also, I will look into gender equity beyond fairness. Yeah, follow up with opinions by student Wei from USM just now. I will look into gender equity. Yeah, I will enhance on balance instead. Yeah. So I will appreciate the differences of individuals, regardless the gender. Yeah. Either we will appreciate the differences, either it's biological differences or personality differences. Yeah. So for me, individual or the personality is more important than gender. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Architect Wei Shan, for that. Again, let's move around, let's discuss around the topic of gender equity in university life itself, and not about maybe the theoretical side of gender equity, but instead of the personal side or personal experiences that we have experienced. So on that note, I'd like to pass it over to Wincy. Let's open the floor to the Q&A session. So over to Wincy.
Hi everyone, Wincy here. So let's start our Q&A. So participants, will you have any question for the panelists? You may pose a general question to the GE panel or academicians, or a specific question to a specific panelist. So do let the conversation flow organically. However, do raise your hand if you have any question. I will address this question to the panelists, or the panelists may also raise your hand if you would like to comment and respond to the question.
All right. We have Asma right here. So Asma, you could unmute and ask your questions.
Hi everyone, this is Asma Amira speaking. I graduated from University Science Malaysia in 2020. I'm a married woman. My husband is also in my class, was back in master time. So I want to get insight from our experienced lecturers. How would they handle if they have a couple like me and my husband? We were in the same class at the time for studio works and the division of tasks, because in my time we were separated because it's like in the same concept of in office most of the people, they don't prefer to have a couple or husband and wife in the same company just because to avoid any altercation. So how would the lecturers see this? Thank you.
Any panelists would like to?
Maybe I can answer that. I'm not so sure what can the lecturer says about having two students in class or at work, because perhaps that will be part of the employee that can answer that question. But of course, I think in government service, of course, you cannot have a couple in one department because of conflict of interest. Because, for example, maybe one of the couple is a director, right? Then you can't even talk about whether the wife or the husband. That's one of the reasons I think perhaps about couple. But today we talk about gender equity here. So the thing is, it doesn't matter. Again, it depends again back on your performance in your respective area of work that will place you wherever you are. But again, because being a couple, you may have it's very hard to put impartiality in that. So I'm not so sure I can address this well. So you're talking about gender, there is no questions about putting it together. I think that's fine because I don't have the experience to tell. Maybe other lecturers have it. I'm not so sure. Thank you. Right, bye.
I saw Architect BU raising your hand. Would you like to say a few words?
I feel obliged because I do see Asma in class before. To be very honest, she held herself very professional. In fact, initially I didn't even realize they're married, and so I guess my take on this is it all relies on your personal integrity. The only concern that we have, whether married or sometimes couples, boyfriend girlfriend in my days too, so there's this high risk that the boyfriend could be helping the girlfriend, or the girlfriend could be helping the boyfriend finish up the model. So that's like an internal advantage that we can't control. But so it goes back to your integrity of being an individual. That means whether you are in the same company or in the same class, that means your studio proposal has to be so awesomely unique that it's yours, not because of your other half influence, not because your other half is a Hadid fan and then you go follow. So that's my take. But as far as my view of academician, I think as well, I was very impressed. Remember, I was surprised. I said, yeah, I didn't know. So, and it's great that you're mature enough to realize this. So continue with your high sense of professionalism. And I think you will excel, whether together with your husband in the same workplace or not. Okay. Make sure you guys remain competitive. Both are architects, right? So support each other. Yeah. And I think together, both of you will go very far. Okay. Back to you, Vinci. Thank you.
Okay, I actually saw that Architect Rishan also raised her hand. Architect Rishan?
Yeah, actually, Asma, I would like to share my personal experience because me and my husband, we were couple in uni and we were colleagues, yeah, when we started to work as graduate architect. And now we are having the same company practicing together. And so far, I don't see any negative issues regarding the relationship, having a studio mate as a husband or partners. Yeah, I look at it positively. Yeah, because if you are talking about group work, I believe you guys can communicate in a more efficient way. Yeah, compared to the other studio mates. Yeah, and I will always look at it positively, and I hope that personally I will be the good examples for you. Yeah. And I believe just like Architect Bius mentioned, together you guys will grow better and be better in the future. Yeah. Regardless the gender. Don't compete with your partners like, yeah lah, you are man, definitely the company will appoint you. Yeah. No such thing, trust me. Yeah, because we were in the same company. No? I joined the company first, we were in the same company twice. Yeah. So I believe nothing can stop you to be a successful architect regardless your gender. Yeah.
Okay, elaborating from Architect Vishan's thoughts, I actually working with her and her husband, so I totally agree on what she says. Okay, we have Anche Izumi. Do you want to elaborate more?
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum. Okay, thank you for giving me a chance to say a few words here. I think Datin Sri Nowina and Architect Tambiu mentioned about equality and also equity. There are a lot of debates about whether should we achieve equality or equity. I think we went to the Ministry of Women before. They say that we should provide equal opportunity. So it should be gender equality. But in our committee, we say that we are a gender equity committee because we believe that equality may not be the right terms and may not be the right move and not the right objective in achieving what we want. So because we have to understand that it's not just about gender, even when we talk about the social status, social races, and so on. I think what we want to have we want to focus is giving them a fair equity so that they will achieve at least a similar opportunity in getting what their objective. Because if we see that, like what Dr. Nowina mentioned, that men and women are designed differently, so we cannot expect that we treat them equally to achieve the same objective. So we must based on equity. So we probably need to assist more towards certain agenda, certain situation. Because certain people may need more assistance or need more opportunity to achieve certain status or certain objective. And the other thing that I want to touch, I think Architect BU mentioned about alpha man, alpha woman, but she is beta. The company name beta, I mean. Okay, but there's something that I'd like to share here as well. I think what Asma mentioned, I think she got married during the study time. The same thing with me. I'm from the same university, same school. We got married early. We got children early. There's one thing that I probably have different opinion from what Architect BU mentioned just now, that when you are saying that the curriculum is to test the individual performance, okay, bear in mind that individual performance does not exist in real world other than in the academic world. So when you go out there, you are not working on your own. So regardless whether they are your colleagues, your husband, your relative, your children, your spouse, okay, you are working in any way, you are working with somebody else. You are not working alone. If I am at the position of the lecturer or studio master, I will not, okay, stop any student helping another student, because that is the real lesson. It's not just about the education, the academic part, but the survivor. I'm telling you this because recently I got the opportunity to share why A student work with the C student. The C student has a special skill. They may not be good in doing their work, but they are very good in getting people to help them in getting past the examination or the project. And that skill actually developed on how they have certain negotiating power that make them an employer who actually employ the B student or A student. So if you look at that, so it is not about the equality, but it is equity. I'm talking about even in terms of status, not just in terms of gender. So sometimes you have that sort of assistance, facilitation that actually allow you to go further. So maybe we have to relook into it. So it's not just about equality. You have to do it on your own alone. You have to do it on your own alone. Sometimes assistance help to get to the objective. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Architect Izumi. So I actually saw Diana to have, I saw Architect Alice raising her hand.
Hi,
Architect Alice.
Hi, thank you, Vinci. Thank you. I'm Alice. And for Asma as well, for you to know, I'm also graduated from USM. And I totally agree with Dr. Izumi, which happens to be my super senior as well. Yes, it's not always relying on others to help each other. But when you are really in need, then we don't mind to help, because people help you is just by what they want. But totally rely on certain people is not the keyword. You see, what we can do is either the male or females or other genders, because right now the entire world, they already categorize there are 4 types. So it's fine, 4 types, 5 types, or 6 types, in future. But it's okay to that we are in a very good position. We don't mind to actually to challenge each other in a good way and influence everyone to actually to improve and upgrade together. So my mom taught me when I was young that if you are not strong in certain things or you're weak in certain things, you really have to work harder than many people. So this actually applies not to me, myself as a female, but I'm looking at it can actually apply to all the genders. So back to the question, the husband, husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, the same things. Well, I don't think in this industry only, but in many, many industry. And just yesterday, I bumped into a group of people and having, some meals, and it was quite interesting when they are talking about that so and so rich man, the husband, and then the controlling is actually the wife, and the wife is very powerful. And some even suggested, it's a joke way, suggested maybe she should focus and open up the schools to focus that, so don't focus on this. And others will say, oh, then she'll train more women like that. I think both ways is also good. Either she, invents into education to train people, because she's a strong lady, and she can eventually continue in this industry. It will show to other side of the gender that if she can do that, and it doesn't mean that she's more advanced, more intelligent, or more smarter than anyone. But I believe she also go through her very hard way to understand the whole thing. So whether in the same company is again back to the keyword individual. If you BU say she has been observed and you are mature enough and you know how to control yourself, this is good. So I don't think it will affect you even though you're in the same company. But certain people are not. So we can't expect everybody in the same situation. So like what Dati Nodwina said, yes, in government and even some in the private companies, they also actually have this kind of policy. There are reasons of certain reasons also, because they are looking into much more bigger aspects and much more bigger scope also. But of course, they are always an exceptional case to case basis. So if you can actually, maintain your good, the strengths of yet, and you are mature enough to do what you think, I think it's no harm for that. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Architect Alice. So we would like to move on to the next topic. Wait, sorry. Okay, I saw Diana raising her hand. Do you have any question, Diana?
Yes, thank you, Howie. Basically, my name is Diana Binti Arifin, and I am a Part 2 graduate from USM. So basically, we have seen so many movements with regards to the gender equity recently. And however positive we want to be about this, it is not easy to change one's perception. And with my own experience I had as well, it also changed my perception of where I do feel that the roles of leadership are not only meant for men, and detailing works are not only meant for women. So the question is here, do you think we should embrace the individuality more or give more chance to the less requested gender? So thank you. I'm done.
Yeah. Can I answer that?
Sure.
I think I want to elaborate a little bit more on the true meaning of gender equity. Gender equity, when we talk about equity meaning, we, as all of you rightfully say, we are all born differently. We have our potential, we have our weakness. And over the years, female are very underrepresented. So if you talk about gender equality, meaning they're going to treat us the same way, but the fact that our starting point is already miles behind. So for you to give them equal opportunity, they will never be able to catch up. So as I say, I think I repeated this in many forums. You have a picture where you have a fence, when you have a very short people and you have a very tall people. Equality means you give them the same height of stool for them to stand to watch a game across the fence, right? This is equality. But the person who is very short, even you give them the stool and they stand on the stool, they're still unable to watch. Equity means you recognize that the fact that they're so underrepresented, they're so far behind, you provide enough assistance to give them an opportunity for them to enjoy the same benefit as the rest. So you give them a higher stool. So end of the day, we're talking about equity for the time being. Eventually, we're hoping that it will lead to equality. That's the reason why when we went to have a dialogue with the Ministry of Women, they keep talking about equality, but we actually told them that equality at this moment is insufficient. When we reach a point where all of us are at the same level, then you talk about equality. Of course, end of the day, we want to be given equal opportunity, right? But unfortunately, at this moment, we're still so far behind. So we need to look at equity. We need to help each other. And that's the reason why when we look at the policy on gender equity in architecture, we look at how we can provide a platform to give more opportunity to promote women's involvement. Not that we're giving them special treatment. We're just wanting to give them opportunity for them to be able to catch up eventually. So that's the reason why we really talk about equity. But we are also moving away from gender equity. We are now looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because this world is not just about male and female. Even within male, you have people who are less fortunate as compared to the rest because they come from different social background, right? Even the female themselves, you have a very female that's from a very wealthy family that has got a lot of influence. Of course, the starting point is well ahead of the others, but you also have female who are less fortunate. So we are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is the direction that we want to move forward. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe I can add a few words to echo what Dato Tan Pei Ying has spoken. See, equity at the center of diversity, equity, and inclusion is, as Dato Tan Pei Ying correctly mentioned, is more than just gender. That's why today's topic is beyond gender. I think the fact that we have this webinar is to create awareness among everybody. For students, you are going into the workplace very soon. You need to recognize what is inequality, what is a good company to work in, where they recognize your potential. So to sum it up, what actually is, how do we achieve equity, not just gender? If you look at the three letter, diversity, equity, inclusion, I like to give an analogy. Diversity is, there's a dance party, everybody is invited. Whether you're tall, you're short, you're male, female, you are Malay, you are Chinese, you're Indian. In order to achieve diversity, the company will make sure there is diversity in the people they hire. So different people are invited to the party. Very good, right? But does that mean that this company achieve equity? Then you look at the end part, the I, inclusion. You can have diversity, hire different background, different people, different sexes, whatever, but some of them are not invited to dance. Yeah? Dr. Zumi just mentioned about A student, C student. Yeah, and then I think the important thing is that recognizing individual potential, giving people a fair chance to realize a potential, invite them to the dance is what the ultimate aim is. When you do diversity and inclusion well, equity will take care of itself.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing I also want to highlight is, a lot of the time, we want to segregate ourselves. We keep talking about, women architects and all those things. We actually self-branding. End of the day, you yourself must go beyond that. And end of the day, all of us are made very differently. And this world is never equal. And I believe that you are what you make yourself to be. So you must recognize your own weakness because all of us are trained differently, we're brought up differently. We have our strengths and weaknesses. It's how to tap on your strength and recognize your weakness and try to improve it so that you improve yourself. Only you can do that. So end of the day, don't care about what people think of you. Yeah, end of the day is who you want to make yourself to be. And effort must be made. This world is never equal, right? And Bill Gates has already said, this world is never equal. So accept the fact that it's not equal and then deal with it rather than moaning and groaning, do something about it and improve yourself so that you can be in the level where you can compete with other people. Of course, we recognize that certain people still need assistance from the mentor, from the company, from the institute to give you better chance for you to excel. So that opportunity must be given to you. But you must also fight for the chance to be able to improve. Yeah.
Thank you. I totally agree on your opinion, both of you. Okay, so thank you all. Be mindful of the time. I would like to bring our focus back to the gender equity subtopic 2. Over to you, Dr. Veronica.
Hi, thank you everyone. It has been such an engaging subtopic 1, and I noticed that although we are trying to limit ourselves into the first topic on university life, we cannot help but actually integrate so many things into that, and that's totally fine. As we have mentioned earlier, we should try to have a conversation in an organic manner. But in order to be focused and contribute to the student conversation, I would like to bring our attention back to start with subtopic 2 and then let the floor flow again. And I'm sure we will get back to similar questions and responses that we all have. Yeah. So thank you, Amelia and Vinci. Let's move on to the second subtopic. And to me now, it is clear that gender equity is an art. It's even more difficult than architecture. Now let's talk about gender equity in practice. So just to sum up, we spoke about gender equity in university life, and now we will move on to gender equity in practice, where in the survey results I shared just now, there was 2 clear points: that leadership roles in practice is often dominated by male leader, while females tend to feel that their voices are not heard in terms of, getting support in childcare, as well as having a very peaceful maternity. Also, to top that out, a lot of employers are actually male bosses. Yeah, so with that, I would like to open the floor again to our conversation. First, with a structured conversation leading to a more fluid one. Yeah, so I'll pass it on again to Amelia. Amelia, over to you.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Veronica. And I believe everyone is very familiar right now how the structure would flow. And I believe we would have a great discussion for the next 2 subtopics. So once again, I'll open it to the students. And with that note, I'd like to call upon Asma. If I'm not mistaken, you are running a Maya architecture studio. So Asma, would you like to share?
Thank you, Amelia. Asma here again. So directly, I want to share my experience after I graduated 2020. So I was actively engaging to further to work in companies. So I applied to many companies. So I attended maybe almost 10 interviews so far back then. So then I decided to pursue my Maya architecture studio. So just to share the things that the interviewer always asked me, the employers always ask me if when do I want to have children, if I can work overtime because I'm married. Yeah, those 2 are the most highlighted one because I'm married. That is the crucial point to it's like one hurdle before I actually showcase my actual quality, my capability, what I can do in the industry. But I have been set back because I'm married, because I'm a married woman. So I find that there is like a highlight to say that maybe I'm not going to be good enough to join your company because I'm a married woman. You may have to give me maternity leave. You may have to support my child for their childcare. So, because they don't know me, so that could be a reason that they hold back. They don't want me as their employee because in terms of financial, they could not support that. So that is one of the things, 2 things that I feel that kind of discouraging. So I decided to pursue my Maya architecture studio as a 3D visualizer. And that is after my master part 2. When I was in part 1, I worked for 2-3 years in a small firm. It was 1 principal, 3 ladies, which including me, and 1 draftsman, which is a male. I had a good time over there. I think I learned a lot of things from my previous boss. He's like my I would say like a model, because like a role model, because he didn't really like put me in a certain situation and limit me into certain tasks because we were given as much as opportunity as we could get, like going to the site, engage with contractors, clients, and I was happy at the time. Yeah, that's it, my take. Thank you, Asma Dan speaking.
Thank you, Asma, for that. Perhaps we could look at this from a whole different perspective. With that, I'd like to call Edwin, who is currently studying part 1, I believe. So, Edwin, would you like to share your thoughts on our second subtopic? Yes.
Hi, Edwin here. So I think in terms of gender in the industry, I mean, I'm still studying last, so I'm not really I don't really have much experience, but this is what I hear from other people, a few of my friends that face a lot of issue when it comes to not really big issue, but then it's like when gender is being played in industry, right? We get to see like a lot of other industry sites that they are not having that mindset yet of this gender equality thing, right? So they don't really like what is it? They really judge people by or trust people based on their gender. So I think there's like still a lot of struggles happening around like currently where people like contractors they don't they always avoid trusting female workers, right? And then wherever the female workers they already have they have the capabilities, they already know the specs, they know everything, and when they like relay the information to the contractors or these type of people, but then the contractors just like don't believe her, and they just like straight away ask the other workers in the architecture industry, right? And they always ask like other people, they always ask like the males. So this is just like my observation from what I saw from one of my friends' experience. But from my own experience, my 6 months intern, I think it really depends on the firm as well, and it really depends on who you're interacting with and who you're working with outside. So I guess right now we still have this issue, but I guess it's very important to make it like an awareness towards the younger generation. So as soon as time slowly pass, I think more and more people will start respecting people regardless of what your gender is, and respect you as an individual, and like they know you are someone who's capable because you are capable, not because of your gender. Right? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Edwin, for that different perspective. I believe Architect BU, you'd like to say a few words on this?
Yeah, I just want to respond to Edwin's observation. I just want to just share from my own experience from coming from the other side. To be honest, I feel things are so much better now. I really appreciate Dr. Peng's wisdom compared to 20 years ago when I started working. Contractors used to look at me like, why are you here? I say, I'm the architect. It's like, where's your boss? I'm the architect. But the recent years, I have no longer have this problem. And I train the girls in my office. I'm very proud of my female architects in the office. So I coach them like, look, how you want your contractor to treat you is how you be confident inside and speak with conviction and have knowledge, and know your stuff. And once you do that, you will realize that the biasness will just evaporate, Stephen. So I never have problems speaking with contractor. And of course, once in a while, the young girls were kind of nervous, and then they'll whisper to me, they said, it's all men inside. I said, no, you can do it. Who says girls wear skirt cannot chair meeting, right? So I just want to share that is how the women carry yourself. So when I first started, I used to think that as women architect, we have to man up. So I used to wear pants, like have to fit into the men's club. But I think lately, I feel I'm very comfortable, and probably it's because it comes from our within first. So when you go speak to contractor, they know that you know your stuff, and if the respect has to be earned. I think that's my message. Okay, back to you.
Yeah. I totally agree with you because no, when I came back in the 1980s, definitely maybe I can even share. No, when I went for interview with MAA, where Alice and Dr. Izumi's company, the first thing they asked me, "You are a girl. How do you expect to go to the site?" No, they looked at me with a tainted, perspective. So it was very difficult to even get a job then. But having said that, although things have improved now, there are still this unconscious biasness. They are still happening in the market. Of course, for a few of us who have been in the market, we are able to show our capability. So that gentle biasness went away. But for a lot of the young females who enter into the profession, unfortunately, it's still happening. I think we have received a lot of feedback. So, I mean, even for me, when I go for a meeting with the government, initially when I went in, nobody even take notice of what I say, because I'm a female. And I agree with BU, you must exert your confidence and you speak with fact. Don't be afraid to voice out. End of the day, people will have a different perception about you when you do that, and they will start to respect you. But I must say, it's more difficult for female to achieve that as compared to a male. I mean, even now when I go to the meeting, I do face that when they don't know who I am, if they are meeting me for the first time. And when I went to go for meetings, even with the minister overseas, and people look at me and think that I'm a Mrs. Minister. They never recognize me for who I am. They will always associate me to a wife of some the delegates. So this is something that we really have to work hard on to change the perception. It's not going to happen overnight, but things are improving as compared to many years ago. Definitely we're in a better position, but unfortunately it's still happening. So we need to all your effort so that we can change your perception, and hopefully in the near future, we're able to go beyond gender. Yeah.
I would like to add on as well. I agree with Dr. Peng as well. I think you know me well. I think since I was stepping into the university, I always dress. My dress code is always in dress. I never wear long jeans or long pants. This is because of my upbringing background is like that. So yeah, so a lot of people thought that you dress so nicely. When I go out everywhere, and I can say 100% nobody can ever guess what is my occupation. They'll say yeah, artist, fashion designers, or makeup, whatever, then I suddenly say, you are the architect. Like, oh, this is from outsider, not in our industry. But when in our industry, having said that, been practicing for so many years, I totally agree. I think you is lucky now that nobody ever looking down, but currently I still face people like that, because you can't stop that any of the jobs they might get into some of the very small companies that maybe the contractor comes like your grandfather age, So they are like, they are looking at you like they are the old gingers and you're the young chicos, you don't know anything, and they challenge you, but they are doing wrong things at the side. So of course, we reason the thing. So what Dr. Peng say is exactly correct. It doesn't male or female, but you really have to ready yourself really by the skill and knowledges. So when you communicate with people in that moment, you don't have to take long. People will know that you are there, and they will not actually dare to actually look down on you. I'm lucky that I'm working same company with Dr. Izumi. This company is giving me all sorts of jobs. They never look at whatever. So they give whatever projects, I'll take. I can take whatever as many as can until I say I haven't said yet, no yet, So I'm still okay to take so big, small job, whatever, with a building bridge, whatever, I'm so okay. So they are supporting persons that really can perform, not really going to by gender. So even for male as well, you might, this is what I find out actually, even for male architects, you might stand out and having a look like an architect, but maybe the suppliers or maybe the contractors or any of the people, they dare not say anything to you. But truly, a lot of things happens that I get the feedback is, this architect don't know anything. So it happens to the same also. So whether you're female or you're male, it's the same. You must actually complete yourself with all the skills and knowledges, so that either you're in front or at the back, nobody even dare to say that you are just, by the name of the architects. That is important.
At least you're lucky you get employed by MAA. I can't even get a job offer from MAA.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Tan Ping, and thank you, Architect Alice. Perhaps we could bounce back to the students itself. We could hear a bit from the students back again. So with that, I'd like to call Chair Yvonne. Maybe you could share about your perception on this topic instead, and then we could bounce back to Dr. Izumi.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me here today. And I praise the committee effort for doing this survey before this roundtable. And I think that's really highly commendable. And I agree with Dr. V that there are more male leaders compared to female right now in the architecture industry. And I think that we also need to be a bit more skeptical about the results of the survey. Although 85.7% feel that they have never faced discrimination, but that shouldn't eliminate the suspicion that maybe the respondents themselves do not know what is sexual harassment in the first place. Because let's face it, we were never properly learned about what exactly is sexual harassment in schools, and especially in architecture. So, but my point here is that it doesn't diminish the other points raised in the survey. There are still valuable data to be extracted. And I'm sure that many people experience sexism in one way or another in the field. And it's very difficult to open up and to fight back, especially if the employer themselves are the culprit. So perhaps the architecture industry could refer to the way American tech companies run their policies by making sure everyday employee communication has some sort of a guideline to prevent sexual harassments. So one of the examples that I know from my friend, the way they do it at American tech companies is that they even make sure that colleagues of opposite sex cannot meet after work just to have dinner. Like having dinner is also like an offense that could get you fired. So it's that serious. And although I agree with Architect view that women can build up their confidence more and break the glass ceiling by improving themselves, however, I feel that, like Asma highlighted earlier, where married women face obstacles in getting jobs, there is also another dimension that we should not ignore, that the high tension and demanding nature of architecture industry do not suit women who wants to build a family in the first place, therefore explaining the low number of Part 2 graduate members and Part 3 architects. And although there are some rare cases, like some of the very capable women on this panel here that we can see, like Architect Yu and then Dr. V and everyone else. I'm not sure about everyone else's background, so I'm just saying the people that I know. And also, the last thing that I want to say is that putting a female out there in the leadership role is important, because representation is important to show future generations that they also can achieve the same thing. But putting a female on top doesn't mean that it's feminist. We are not practicing feminism in the sense. Feminism is also a whole bigger, broader topic. And feminism will actually question the structure of hierarchy and also question the issue of domestic housework. So if you are interested, you can actually look out for social reproduction theory and ecofeminism. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Yvonne, for that strong viewpoints that you just shared with all of us today. And now, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Izumi, how would you interpret this?
Okay, actually, I raised my hand earlier because I want to ask Dr. V about the finding from the survey, because I noticed that the respondents, this also related to what Yvonne mentioned just now. Okay, the respondent from the survey, I noticed that 61.3% is female and 35% male. But one of the questions asked is about the workloads towards the gender. So workloads heavier towards gender. So 76.7% say that heavier towards male, and 18.3% say that heavier towards female. I noticed that although that you have 61.3% female respondents, but majority, 76.7% agree that the workloads at workplace heavier towards male. So very much related to what Yvonne mentioned just now. Is this something that negative or positive? Is this a recognition that male should take more workload? Because both male and female, because the majority of respondents actually is female, say that the workload is heavier towards male, and which is 76%. So if I try to recall what we discussed earlier about equity, is this a form of equity that we acknowledge that men should take heavier workload burden because designed as such, and that will give more opportunity for female actually to grow and to learn more about what they are doing. Is this something positive or negative? If you do any analysis, Dr. V, on this, whether or this is something that not acceptable, we should make it balanced. Male and female should have a 50-50 workload. So back to what Yvonne mentioned just now, I think she put it in the right perspective and the right position that putting a female on top, there is not feminism that we want to achieve. So it has to be putting things at the right place. So it's not about gender, one gender lead another gender. So maybe Dr. V can also respond to that finding. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Dato Izumi. Apologies. Due to time constraints, I believe we could move on to the subtopic 3, and we could have like a large Q&A session altogether at the end, because I believe we have a lot of questions rolling in after this. So with that said, perhaps we could move on to the subtopic 3, and we...
Amelia, before you move on, can I just ask Yvonne, maybe you should take a look at the gender equity in architecture policy that we've done, because some of the issues that you have raised are all addressed in that policy itself. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Architect Tan Peng. So with that note, we will keep all our questions to the end of our session after the subtopic 3. So with that, I would like to pass it back to Dr. Veronica.
All right, thank you. And I will try to address Dato Izumi's point just now. Perhaps I'll do that quickly and then move on to subtopic 3. I think the results are actually very much perception based. It may not be the direct experience, and hence it may not truly reflect the real thing itself. Yeah, because we are asking respondents, do you think that male are given more workload or female are giving more workload? Yeah, so my short response to that is it is the perception and not the real thing itself. Yeah, so moving on, I think because it's the last half an hour of the segment, we will need to bring the topics to a more positive note. And let's move on to our subtopic number 3, which is taking a cue actually from what Yvonne have mentioned just now. There are ways to address this. Yeah, she have shared with us some examples. So let's have a chat about this topic. We all know there are many issues, many encounters, and the good thing and the bad thing about it is there is no one size fit all. It's very much dependent on the individual and the equity concept and the employer or any other people around us. So this concept is always relative. Yeah, but there are always things that we will try to do, whether it is university or whether it is practice, things to try to ensure equity. So let's move on to this topic. And the question that we would like to frame, this is a simple question. What are the ways to address gender equity, either from a student perspective, the academics perspective, or the practitioner perspective? But I would like to push this back to the students first, and then we will grow into the fluid conversation again. Over to you, Emily.
Thank you, Dr. Veronica, for that. Now, once again, I will begin with the students. So with that note, I would like to invite Arfa. Maybe you could share a bit about your perception on our third subtopic.
A very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fahmi Arfa, and I'm a graduate from Equator College. So for this subtopic 3, basically, it's like my approach, or what my opinion and approach on what how to achieve gender equity itself. So I think the approach would be to start from the beginning, from the education system. Even though we are talking about, most of us are university students, I think that we should also approach through the younger generations who are below, like haven't started their university life yet. So of course, in that way, we also have to change the culture, have a cultural change where even though like in all all the speakers today may have very conflicting understanding, as we know that it's a very complex matter. So so it should have, as we also know that culture is made out of individuals. So we tend to think that male has a more predominant role. So in ways to educate them is to start from the beginning itself. So we can start by encouraging students that they can be architects, especially for the females themselves, female students, because occupation is not a gender-specific role. Male and female both can do whatever they want. They can be doctors, pilots, especially architects, as you can see, like many representative female architects today, and also female students, architects, future architects. So let the female be more involved in more male predominant activities, so that we can produce a more future of our future, so they can learn more about creating gender equity, as also Datin may have said that, he has said that previously, it's getting, those are like the older days, and it's very hard to keep up, to get equality. So we have to start now and through with the young itself. So in this way, we can actually move away from the patriarchy, where we tend to think that male has a more predominant role, female have to do a specific thing and all that. So just relating back to my family life itself, also like even though it doesn't relate to the architectural field, like my dad is a small businessman. He's staying at home most of the time, so he's doing most of the cooking, and my mom, he's mostly in the office 9 to 5. So it shows like the cultural change. So it is happening now, and even with this talk itself, or having this conversation, it is educating the young itself. So so that's my opinion, and yeah, my approach and my opinion.
Thank you, Fahmi Arfa, for that, for sharing your sentiments and your personal experiences as well. Now, moving on, I'd like to invite Oi Yi Ling. What's your stance on this context instead? Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Yi Ling. I'm a postgraduate student currently having my final year in USM. Gender equity is important in architecture profession, as fresh, unique ideas from diverse perspectives are equally important in the development of living spaces we're creating. So if we're designing for all walks of life with different demands, designers should also be made up of different genders to better understand the needs of different clients. In my opinion, early childhood education is the most effective way in changing the entire game, as it involves the insertion of correct values in young generations that are going to change the world in the future. As for now, I guess everyone here must have seen the image of an architect being portrayed as a man holding a roll of drawing standing in the middle of construction site in our textbook during school. This is how powerful early exposure works to the perception and mindset of people. It indirectly announced to the kids that the profession is dominated by male, so women grew up with ambitions are naturally avoiding architecture as their future occupation. However, we should take the advantage of the early education in encouraging correct values such as evaluating performance of someone by their capabilities instead of gender. Let your capabilities stop, raw, and even prove to everyone you deserve something. We should all be exposed to the understanding to share equal access of opportunities among every gender. No matter you're a man or a woman, we share the same starting point in the race. We should own the platform, maybe in a different height. Some may need a higher stool or some may need a lower one, but that eventually allows us to catch sight of the same level of view, to share our brilliant ideas and have them equally appreciated and celebrated. This is the wonderful future of gender equity that I have imagined. Through education, regardless of gender, everyone should have been raised to being confident, knowing their strengths and what they deserve. Every individual should be brave to voice out when they are not being treated fairly when compared to others. Not only the society should change, but we ourselves should take the step to grow, develop, and change the perception of gender equity in ourselves too. Don't let discrimination hold us back. Pursue our dreams and passion. Then all the challenges are easier to overcome. Thanks for your kind attention. Yiling Dan speaking.
Thank you, Yiling, for sharing the ways to address all the gender equity that could potentially work for everyone. So, Gary, you raised your hand. Would you like to follow up on this?
Oh, hi everyone. Good morning from London. I'm now based in overseas now. And I run a small initiative called Project XYZ, and good to see some familiar faces here. I just thought that when it comes to like solution or when it comes to the proposal, how to improve this scenario or phenomena, that I thought that was something very interesting, especially when it comes to post-COVID scenario, and also throughout COVID. Perhaps before that, it should be, we sort of aware that internet sort of bring very interesting democratic and fair scenario or situation that I realized where personal ability and performance, it seems to be more, all online rather than, I'm not saying that, the performance, whether it's got male or female, should be demonstrated on site performance or experience. That's just one side. I'm just saying that, off-site wise, when it comes to work internally and also how to negotiate with people, how to talk to staff, with your colleague, it tends to be happen more, we have the chance to remove the physicality where, you don't have to, before that in Malaysia, there is a certain political sense we're talking about apparels and also the attires seems to be more exposed and things like this. So it's interesting that internet sort of removed that. And then now we are talking about in a more performance-based, we are now talking about who actually able to do the things. Therefore, then we know that who should be assigned, not based on the gender, but rather based on the performance and based on the confidence that we have been talking about. So that's what the things that I realized internet sort of bring everything that, we remove so many things. And then after that, that's where, internet kind of allows more voices to speak out, because now we using text rather than, we don't have to raise our hand to say, I mean, in Zoom we have to raise our hand, but I mean, in a way that in the internet we tend to use text rather than in the physical communication. That sort of brings a much more ambiguous and also neutral platform to speak. So I'm not sure what everyone's think, especially like when it comes to post-COVID. Do you feel like things much more easier, and do you feel more easier in voicing out things, because nowadays we're using text or emails rather than, physical, you have to talk something, and then the tone is not there in a way, but using the text and also text messages is more ambiguous and more neutral in my opinion. I'm not sure about other thinking. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary, for bringing us back to the current situation and times that we live in. And perhaps I could call upon Suimin. What would your line of thought be for this?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suimin. I've just graduated from UCAM with my master's in architecture. So actually, this my suggestion is quite a personal one, because based on my experience while studying Part 2 at UCAM, during the intake, there were in my class, there were a balanced number of male and female students. There were 8 male students and 8 female students. But what I noticed throughout the course was that most of the male students were also juggling part-time work while enrolled in the course full-time to support their family and future financially. So during the 2 years, many of the male students were actually unable to cope and either dropped out or had to stay back a year. In the end, all female students, all 8 of us from my batch graduated on time, while only 3 male students graduated together with us. So in my opinion, the concept of men as breadwinners of the family is a larger cultural issue and perception that might be difficult to solve. But what I feel is that we can provide an architecture education that is accessible to all. Therefore, because of this and also my personal experience, I would like to suggest maybe a possibility of a part-time, part-2 architecture education to be more widely available so that furthering our architecture education can be obtained without sacrificing our source of income and also putting a halt on our careers and lives. This is why it's personal for me because of the lack of this part-time course. It took me actually 7 years to actually decide to put a halt on my career and my life and actually pursue this master's in architecture. So for me, I don't have the burden of financially needing to support my family, but it also is a very difficult situation for me to actually pursue my further my education. So I'm Sumin, done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumin, for that, for sharing your opinions and your experiences. Now, I'd like to call upon Yushan. Maybe you could share about your viewpoints, and we would slowly transition into the Q&A. So everyone could raise your hands if you have anything to add on. So, Yushan, would you like to share?
Hi, I'm Yushan. I'm currently a Part 1 graduate. So personally, I think to achieve gender equity is actually an intergenerational effort. So because gender inequality actually deeply root from social norms or our cultural perception. So would like to suggest maybe in much more approachable ways. I also quite resonate with what Pani has spoken just now. A much approachable ways such as in specific to our own industry education system. We normally in university, we always have compulsory courses. So what if we implement social constructivism or even human behavior courses into our education system? This would actually help either genders or different genders to understand all of our individualism. In the end, we can achieve the same objective. Or yeah, this is just like a one step at a time. So this is just one approachable way to do so. So this is all I have from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Yushan, for that. Now, maybe Architect Chua Chi-Ching, you could share with us what your impressions are towards this matter.
Hi, I'm Chi-Ching. Yeah, I'm currently a practice architect. Thanks for all your viewpoints. I think it's quite agreeable to your suggestion on, we shall start from education. So because as you said, gender equity, it's actually value. So it's not just to provide an equal access only, but we have to provide equal value system so that women can step out. And, because all these years, right, everyone is rooted with the traditional thinking, those very conventional conservation thinking that everyone we need to change, because if not, we still will be always thinking that if we have family, we must take care of our children, and by right, I believe these are all both husband and wife's responsibility, not just about women. So I also remember when I heard someone was sharing about the first Asma, your interview when the question posed to you is you're married. When are you going to have children? So I was thinking, I believe the same question should have also call out or asked your husband when, if let's say he were to be in the interview. So because a family is actually formed by husband and wife, mother and father. So I think both also shall take the same responsibility to take care of our children. And of course, it's actually I think what we can do right now is to provide and create a conducive environment for a lady or for a woman to work, or to say even to get the education in university. So then another thing is to improve our implementation of the policies. So if let's say we improve, or if we implement those policies that can actually help to let women not just to step back, but also able to stand out and voice out, I think this will change slowly. The environment will change slowly, and the perceptions of everyone will change slowly, and then the gender equity will be able to achieve. Thank you, I'm Chi Ching.
Thank you, Architect Chi Ching. Now, with that note, I'll pass it over to Wincy for the Q&A. We'll open up the floor, and any questions could just flow in. So, Wincy?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Wincy here. Let's move on for the Q&A. Any question from the floor, you may raise your hand and I will invite you to question.
I believe Diana tried to raise her hand. So, Diana, you could proceed.
Hey, hi everyone, it's me again. My opinion for this gender equity is no longer about gender itself, because it related back to the business growth as well as the national economic context. And my experience with Intel last time, because I branched out, they had weekly course in order to teach the people itself, the employers or employees, to understand the mutualism with regards to the gender. And the last question would be, I believe that many architects are moving towards gender equity. And I just want to know what kind of changes do you feel within your organization itself? That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Tampei, I saw you raising your hand.
Mine is not so much of a question. I think a lot of the things have been discussed on what we can do to address gender equity issue are actually included in the recommendations that we have in the policy. So maybe I would suggest for a copy to be given to Veronica. It can help to distribute that document to all the people in this room and help to also promote it. I think we'll publish it, Pam has published it, but maybe it has not reached the academician and also the students. It's quite a good document in the sense that it actually lists down a list of recommendations, and a lot of the things that are being discussed are all inside. So yeah, so maybe it can help to address some of the questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Architect Dato' Tamping. I think it will be really beneficial to us. I saw Farhan raising your hand. Farhan?
Hello, hi. Can I shoot to the doctor? Can I ask to Dr. Norwina? Hi, Dr. Norwina. Okay, so my question is, how did gender equality affect the society? That's all.
It's a very broad question, so I'm not so sure how to answer that directly. If you're just talking about more on architecture, perhaps I could say that, I think rightly, I think your members talk about bringing education in. Yes, it has to start from home. Okay, so it has to start from home. So no more are you asking your sisters or your mother or your wife washing or cooking, I think if you think, I watched that when I was younger. I watched my parents or my grandparents or my uncles, aunties doing that. What I do is that, okay, I'm not going to be the one who's going to be in the kitchen. So what happened to me now is that, okay, when I got married, of course I didn't marry at school. Okay, I married after that. Okay, but this is okay. I don't cook. So what I do is, I have a maid, so I can pay my maid to do the cooking so that I can take care of my children. All right. So I have 7 children. Okay. Now you see, and I'm still working, and I think I think it upon me that I have to be professional. So whenever I work in public works, but I do not work in private sector. I work in public works where we have more or less still a strenuous work. So I don't make it an excuse. Okay, I do not make my family as an excuse. But of course, when I become the boss, okay, as a woman, I become a boss, and I have to make sure that I understand my workers. So if I have female workers who have problems with, say, taking care of children, so I just call them in the room. Okay, this is how you do it, and so that when you have to still come to work, but this is how you do it. So I mean, meaning that you do not show any regression in jobs, you still can perform whatever your performance or your what call it is your personality as a woman. Okay, so, and this I brought up throughout my work as an architect in public works, that I even chair meetings. Again, I've even brought my baby to a meeting. I sit with one side because I'm still breastfeeding this child. So and all the rooms are with male engineers. So we make it as it is our right. We still work, we still perform, we still have a family life. Okay, and we do that also in university, where we have you have students that are married and with children. We create like a small creche, like a play place, so they can put the child there while they do the work. So it is about accommodating. Okay, and remember, I think you all being students, and you have to read a lot of research papers, perhaps, that talks about a happy workplace makes a happy staff, and you produce better. So productivity comes with that. And I have a good bosses throughout my stay, and that's how you can actually grow above and get recognition and respect for what you do. Okay, so like at work, don't be stay in your place and work comes to you. No, you search for it. Okay, you search. You finish the job. I think like what Alice was saying. Don't wait. Go ask. So I go to my boss and say, I have done my job. What can I do next? And because of that, you get lots and lots and lots of jobs. Come back to your friends. Doesn't matter whether it's male or female. And you get it done because they know you can get it done. That's why they get a job. I think I'll stop there. At least there's something to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Novena.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Architect Alice.
Thank
Perhaps you
you.
would like to answer Diana's question
Yes.
too. Diana, would you like to recap?
Yes, I can still remember questions. It's okay.
All right.
Actually, my hands put out actually to answer a question. Okay. It's very simple. For practicing architects, I mean, you will soon experience that as a first fresh graduate architect with no experience. Then slowly you're moving into the intermediate and then to the seniors level. So I'm actually going through all this process. The most important thing is actually as a start as a learner, because what you learn from universities is totally different from the actual community and the society for all of you here and to all the participants listen here. So the most important keywords is to me, I still carry until today, is never ever stop learning. Many things we don't know. Until today, I admit I still have certain things I don't know, and there are so many things keep on coming to us. So as a seniors architects to guide all the, I have my own team. So each of the team that actually assigned to me, I have to start to actually find out each of the personality, even though they can be the assistant architect with the part one, or they are doing their internships, or they could be with the graduated with part two. But each of them have different individual characters and attitude. Some could be very outspoken, some could be very passive, they don't talk, but they are good scholars in their education. So when we identify their characters and attitudes, right? So that is what I'm doing. I will communicate with them. This is again back to what Gary said, that either by text, by this. I found people that they are not good in communicating. But when you're texting with them, oh, fantastic. They can even joke. They are very fantastic. If they can actually bring that part of them into the realistic facing people, that would be excellent, but they cannot immediately do that. So how to actually help them is actually to encourage them communicate more, and then finding actually what is the things that desire inside, and we help them to bring that things out. So this is in all my teams that I start to identify everybody's, and I go after each of the individual and their characters, and I'll encourage them. Even I faced some of my team members before. They say I have no intention to take ARs, the Part 3's architect's license. But after they follow me a year after, then they say, yeah, they registered themselves. Oh, that's good, because I keep on encouraging them. So sometimes they follow me to the side, to the meetings, on the way back, on the, going to the meetings. That's the conversation start. I don't think they will talk to you, but we always start, So break the ice, slowly to everybody's open their heart. Then you can talk heart to heart. That's very important. And then final one is actually I want to borrow Dr. Paying's the stool story. Either your height, you need a lower stool or higher stool. But the most important keyword is you yourself must step on it, on top of the stool. If you don't step on it, I give you the stool right just for you to get the seam. Nobody can help you, right? So we are here to assist everybody in kind, to assist with sharing. But individually, each of the person that you must have confidence for yourself and step on the stool and get the same sightseeing as everybody can see. So that's the keyword, Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Alice. I have a few words with her before. She's really motivating. Okay, next we have Edwin. Edwin, the floor is yours, Edwin.
Hi, Edwin here again. So, I think previously, I think Dato Tan Pei was like I think you mentioned that there was a policy documented for in promoting gender equity in offices, right? And I think it's pretty nice to have like that documentation or that policy so that people can the firm can actually start using it as a guideline to actually practice better gender equity and stuff. Which is nice, but I kind of like wonder, I'm quite curious that how do we actually ensure that it's going to be implemented in different firms out there, or especially in different other industry? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, PAM have promoted this policy to all our members to encourage for them to actually adopt the policy. But of course, PAM doesn't have any authority. We can only promote. If you look at overseas, like in Australia and even I think even in England, they are promoting gender equity and try to make it a law. Sorry, somebody was trying to.
I think it's by accident. You may
okay.
Continue.
Yeah. So the other way is to make it a law, right? Of course, this is something that we need to work with the government. But like in Australia, they are also talking about even making a law to have ensure gender pay, and they even make it a gender equity policy as part of the law. So eventually, we hope that we can move towards that direction. But on the longer term, rather than using law to force us to do it, I really think that education and having a change of mindset is a more sustainable way of doing it. Because at the end of the day, we need to recognize we are all different people, right? Rather than being forced by law to do it, I think we should make a conscious effort and change the way that we think going forward. Yeah. But in terms of the policy, like I said, I will share it with all of you. So it has got a set of recommendation and a guideline on what needs to be done to encourage the retention of women in the profession. It does not apply to other profession, but it's basically the recommendation is more towards the architectural profession. And if you go to Australia, there's another website. They also talk about, equity in practice, to talk about how to introduce flexible working hours, how to ensure equal pay, how to ensure we provide facilities to support female. And we recognize that the female will need to go out of the profession to have a family, but you want to bring them back when they are ready to come back. Currently, there's no system to encourage them to come back, right? Especially with the CPD points and all those things. So even in PAM, we are looking at providing facilities to encourage female participations in our activities. And actually, this pandemic, to a certain degree, has changed her perception. Now, working from home doesn't seem to be such a, unacceptable practice. So in that sense, that people are accepting a more flexible working hour going forward, which I think will help to be more inclusive. So end of the day, I think you need to recognize that female do play a different role. We have a special roundtable conducted with representation from a lot of the members of the industry. And one very interesting point came out. A lot of the women say they decided not to take the leadership position or a higher position because they prefer to actually bring out the family. They want to be, the motherhood instinct. So sometimes it's by choice, not because they were being discriminated, but it's actually by personal decision. But after the children are a bit older, they find that it's very difficult to come back to the profession. So we want to provide an easier pathway to retain them. And now with the online CPD, they can actually, take care of the children and still attend CPD online. So this is something that PAM is also looking at going forward, to have a hybrid platform to encourage female architects to come and attend all the programs online. So end of the day, they can still comply with the CPD points, so they don't become isolated from the profession. This also happens to America. You'll be surprised, America, the licensed architect is only 16%, even lower than Malaysia. A lot of the problem is because they do not have proper childcare facilities. So when female leave the profession, they find it very difficult to come back. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tan Pei Ying. It's about time. So thank you everyone for joining us for today's online sharing and roundtable session. I hope you all actually enjoy it and also gain a lot of insight. It's really an eye-opening sharing and actually quite beneficial to a lot of the next generation. Thank you, moderator, panelists, and also participants. Thank you for giving us this interesting and also eye-opening sharing, as well as the useful advice to the students and also a young architect. I have an announcement for tomorrow. We also have a Archidex roundtable session, 4th November, Thursday, with the theme Beyond Limits. We have invited Mr. Muhammad Faiza, who was a 3D designer and also visualizer, as our speaker. So this shall mark the end of our session today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Hope to see you all in the next session.
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, there's one message that I want to give. Our committee, the door is always open. We want to engage with the students. So don't take this session, end of the session, and you will depart. So do come and connect with us. Our doors are always open. So get in touch with Pam. You're welcome to join our committee as well. Yeah, if you need any assistance at all, please reach out to us. Yeah.
All right, sure. So everyone do keep in touch with Pam and also Masa. We have our Instagram and also Facebook. Do follow us, and we have a lot of exciting activities and announcements upcoming. Also, if you haven't already done yet, you can also register for your PAM membership at www.mypam.org.my. There are a lot of benefit for architecture students that's await. So until then, have a great day ahead. Stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.